Happy New Year, everyone. Today is New Year's Eve. I should probably say Happy New Year if it was tomorrow, but Happy New Year anyway. Tomorrow is New Year's Day. Hope you guys have a happy and safe New Year's Eve. I am working in my journal here, my December daily today. This page is a combination of a couple different days. As I mentioned in the previous video, I am not really going by day 1, 2, and 3. I'm just going in chronological order and gluing down the photos and things that I've taken throughout the month of December in no particular like story order or anything like that, or like I said, no, not particular days. It's just in chronological order. And I am going with the flow. I'm taking my time. I'm just kind of playing. I'm having a good time. I'm not stressing out about the fact that I'm videotaping or anything. I am kind of a slow scrapbooker, especially when I do a format like this. I find that when I was doing pocket pages, I'm much quicker because I don't know, it's just a smaller format and I don't have to maybe think as much. I'm not sure. But I am much quicker when I do more of the pocket pages. And this style, that's more of a, I would say, semi-traditional scrapbooking style, this does take me quite a bit longer. So this video is a bit on the longer side from what I normally do, but I wanted to make sure I had both the two-page spread in this video to share with you guys today. And I am documenting the fact that me and my daughter like to go to Starbucks. I thought this is a pretty Starbucks cup, so I thought I'd take that. And just talking about Starbucks and the cost of Starbucks and going to different coffee shops and things like that. And then on the right-hand side later on, you're going to see that I'm going to use that Starbucks cup to make a little pocket and document some silly photos of my daughter and kind of talk about, winter and the stress of winter and finals and school and the end of first semester and all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to journal that as well on the right-hand side. So first I'm going to work on the left-hand side here. You can see earlier I punched out the corners of the photo. I thought it'd be fun to do a little decorative photo edge. I don't do that very often. So I ended up just punching, I think it's a Fisker's punch, and it's just a rounded corner with some dots. I thought that was cute. I don't know, I felt like it needed something. The squared off look just didn't look right to me. That red piece is from 49th and Main. This piece I am gluing down right now is a printable that I cut out and I just added some ink around the edges. And this fabric piece, I end up just pleating it with my fingers and then hand stitching it with some red embroidery floss. And I just thought that looked really cute, and I showed you a closer up picture of that. The background that's green right there, that was a printable as well. I can't remember the shops that I got all these from, but if you have any questions about where I've gotten anything or the collections I use or just anything, leave those in the comment below and I can get back with you. I do a lot of different printables and print a bunch of stuff all kind of in mass, and I don't always remember where I get things from, but I can definitely look things up and let you guys know. So besides that green background I put on there, and that paper there is just like a yellow straw paper. I got that from Roxy at Roxy Creations. And I wanted to add that ribbon, that gold ribbon I got in a little kit from a friend of mine that I haven't scrapbooked with in a while, but she used to do like little mini scrapbook retreats and put scrapbook kits together. And she sent over the ribbon and a bunch of little goodies when I had a little scrapbooking event at my house. And she gave everybody a little pack of goodies, which I thought was super sweet. So I love the ribbon and it was perfect for this album, so I thought I'd use it. And on the left-hand side there, I put some coffee dyed cheesecloth, and now I'm just going to do some layering. This little ticket came in the 49th and Main. This holly piece is a printable. I thought it was sweet just adding it there. So I'm inking around the edges of that, and I'm going to glue that down, and then I'm going to use my tiny attacher to staple that. And my tiny attacher has, basically I'm using the regular tiny attacher staples, but I take a alcohol marker and color them like a goldish yellow color, and then it just changes the color of your staples. So if you ever have any those little tiny attacher staples and you don't like the color of them, instead of buying a bunch of different color staples, you can just take alcohol based markers and color your staples whatever color you want. So it's perfect. Now I thought this little ticket needed a little bit more, so I'm just punching a couple holes and I'm going to do like a little stitching detail here. It's kind of like a reverse blanket stitch. I don't know. I was just playing. I really wasn't trying to do anything specific. I just really wanted some of the texture of the stitching, and it ended up being like this like reverse blanket kind of stitch. So I'm not definitely a sewer. I like to sew. I love hand stitching and hand sewing just to have fun. Just kind of I don't know what I can't remember what it's called. Not free stitching, but anyway, I like playing with that, but I really wasn't trying anything specific here. I just kind of ended up getting what I got there, and I think it looks cute, and I like the texture here. It was just a little bit, it's nothing too much, but I thought it was nice to bring that texture of the stitching across the page since I did the hand stitching on that little pleated piece there. So I added some cheesecloth under that little pleated piece as well, just again to bring the cheesecloth look to either side of the page. Now here's the cup that I have in the picture, and I kept it and I decided to cut it out. I wasn't exactly sure how I was going to use it, and I don't think I've ever used a Starbucks cup in my layouts before, so I thought, why not try it this time? And I just trimmed off all the like bumpy bits, and now I'm just kind of figuring out like what I wanted to do with it. I wasn't sure if I was going to make like a flip or a pocket or what I was going to do, and I ultimately decided on a pocket. So I trimmed it out, and now I'm just going to fix the shape a bit. Some of it was uneven and I had some white sticking out and I didn't like that, so I'm just trimming it up a bit to make it look more even. And then I'm going to end up taking that to my sewing machine and stitching with some copper metallic thread. And I like how it ends up turning out. I'm going to put a little fabric kind of hinge on it and make a flip. So you're going to see that here in a second. So that pocket turned out cute. And it's going to work perfect on the page. I ended up putting this hinge on this left-hand side on accident. I'm not sure what I was thinking. I really wanted it on the right, but for some reason I put it on the left. And so you're going to see me glue it down, and then I'm going to pick it up and put it on the other side and fix that. So you can see here, I'm just gluing that down, and then I'm like, oh, making it, of course, all perfect before I realized that's not what I want. I want it to flip out that way instead. Oops. So the nice thing about that glue, that's that beacon glue, it does allow a little bit of dry time, so you can move it around if you don't have it exactly where you want it, which is nice. Like the art glitter glue really sticks almost instantly as you stick it down, so this does leave you a little bit of play time. And the other thing I like about this is it does rub off. It's kind of like the old-fashioned rubber cement. So I really like this glue a lot. I highly recommend the Beacon glue. It's a bit goopy and kind of stringy, so it can be a little challenging to work with or kind of a pain in the butt to work with sometimes, but I really like the results and I just love how it glues down. And even though you do have some working time with it, it also just kind of glues pretty quickly as well. It doesn't like, because it's kind of got like that more sticky, like I said, kind of rubber cement kind of feel to it, it just ends up holding very quickly as well, even though you have some time to move it around. Here are some old Allie Edwards stamps. I want to stamp, I think I'm going to stamp two different stamps. I think this one right here is, I have one that's December Stress, but that's not what this is. Oh, this is December Joy. So I'm going to punch this out with my 1-inch circle punch. Because this paper is like a book page and it is not very thick, I should have backed it when I punched it so it was a cleaner punch, but I didn't. So I'm just going to trim it out with my scissors. And then I'll ink around the edges a little bit, and I'm going to add that little thing right there by the little card with the girl on it. And I like how that looked. It just felt like I needed something else down there. I was originally going to put it over on the right-hand side, but I figured that looks better there on the left. And you're going to see me as I'm working on this. I do kind of go back and forth between the two pages, just kind of doing whatever seems to feel right. And now I'm going to pull out some goofy pictures of my daughter. She likes to steal my husband and my phones when we leave them in our car or whatever. And so she'll send us these crazy point 0.5 pictures, which seems like all kids like to do that. I don't know. I don't know what's up with the point 0.5 pictures. But see, these are some really goofy, silly pictures of my daughter. Obviously, she doesn't normally look like that, but I thought these would be cute to put in this album and really talk about just the end of the semester and the stress of school and the stress of the holiday season and all that, and how she's coping with it, and how it's so nice that we're going to have a break here in a little bit because these pictures were taken before her Christmas break. So I kind of talk about that in some hidden journaling spot on this page. But I thought these pictures were just really super goofy of her, and so I thought I'd include them. A lot of times I always have like pictures where she's like looking all pretty and perfect, and I definitely wanted to put these in because I think it just really shows her personality. She is a silly, goofy kid sometimes, and these are good representations of that. I mounted that on some 49th and Main cardstock, and then I'm punching out this tab and adding some ink around the edges. And that tab punch is an old retired Stampin' Up! Tab punch. Just going to add some adhesive to it. And I want to tuck that underneath the photo because I don't want to cover up my daughter's forehead. And then I'm going to flip that over. And then this picture I thought was a little bit too long, so I'm going to trim off some of it. I don't need all of her arms in the picture. So I'm going to trim off the bottom of that and then glue it down. And then I am going to add a stamp called December Stress. That's on that same Allie Edwards stamp set. I think I'm going to do it in red, and I'm going to add it to this particular photo here. And then that fits in the pocket, but it was going to fall in too much. So I tried to contemplate what I wanted to do, and I ended up deciding to take my tiny attacher and just adding a little staple so that when I put the card in here, it doesn't fall to the bottom, and I'll end up covering it with some die cut pieces. So now it doesn't fall in, so it's perfect. And the staple's fine. You don't necessarily have to cover it, but I just didn't like how it looked, so I'm going to cover it with this little stamp die cut, or not die cut, but printable. And then I think a little word strip, and I'm just going to ink those up. I think that looks cute on there. And the little stamp has like some pastries and stuff. And I thought, well, even though we didn't get pastries at Starbucks, I thought that was appropriate kind of a motif to put on the Starbucks cup. Just adding my art glitter glue. Again, like I've said before, I kind of go back and forth between art glitter glue and that beacon. The beacon would have worked just fine, but for whatever reason, I just decided to use the art glitter glue, probably because I like the tip on that. It's a nice fine tip. It's a little easier to use on that little word strip. Now I need to have some background to this page. I didn't really like just the coffee paper. I thought it was a little too boring. So I am going to use my ruler here and just trim this out. The ruler has kind of a jaggedy edge, so it gives more of a rough texture to the paper. And I like how that looks rather than just a clean cut paper. So I just use my ruler to trim out until I get to the size I want. That bird card is another printable. I am going to use this scrap piece here. It's the same paper that I have on the left-hand side. I'm going to use that same punch that I used for the coffee cup picture, but I'm going to use a different corner. So there's like 3 different corners, I think, on that punch, and I'm just using a different one. And I just like how it gives that edge a little bit different look. Again, just more texture, dimension, things like that. So just trying to figure out how that's all going to place down and how it's going to look nice. I do end up inking around everything, which I think I showed already. And I was deciding, oh, maybe I can put another photo, but I decided not to put that photo there. I thought it just looked too cluttered. I'll use that photo for another day. So now I like how everything looks, so I'm going to start gluing everything down to the page. Lots of adhesive so it doesn't go anywhere. And this paper that I'm using, most of this paper is not like a heavy cardstock. It's more of a nice, like kind of presentation kind of paper that that the printables work really well on. So it does have a little bit of a thickness to it, but the glue works pretty well. It's sometimes the cardstock ones, they tend to fall off a little easier, but this one works really well for this particular application. So now I have typed my journaling up on my vintage typewriter. I'm going to cut this all into strips and I'm going to add it to the left-hand side of the page. I have to admit the strips on the left-hand side of the page, there's a lot of them and they got a little wonky. I kind of wanted them to be at a bit of an angle, but they're a little bit kind of too wonky, but you know, I glued them down. There's nothing I can do. I can't bring them up. I don't know. Some of the angles on it's a little bit crazy, but it'll work just fine. It's fine. It's all fine. So now I wanted to add something else to that right-hand corner of that one page. It just looked a little blank up there. And I have these snowflake stamps. So I'm going to stamp one red and one green snowflake. And I'm stamping it on this packaging paper. This is just paper that came in one of my boxes, either from like Chewy's or from Grove, one of those companies. And I want to, because this is pretty thin paper, I do want to back this and just to give it a little more heft because I'm going to make it a little tab on the page and I didn't want it to be too thin. So I'm just using my glue stick on the back of this and putting a lot of glue stick on. I'm going to just lay the paper down here and make sure it's all smoothed out with a extra like key card. And then once everything's smoothed out and it has dried a little bit, you do not want to punch this when it's wet. I'm going to take my circle punch here and punch it out. This circle punch, it is not very old, but it is terrible. This is from Recollections, and it is punches just terrible. Like I have 2 layers here, and the paper really should punch out pretty nicely. Like there's no reason why after I let this dry that it shouldn't punch out. I do not recommend the Recollection punches. I am super disappointed with these. I definitely want to find this size punch, which I think is like an inch, I guess an inch and a half, 2 inches maybe. I definitely need to find this in a better brand because I am just super disappointed in how this turned out. It used to punch pretty well. And like I said, I haven't had it all that long. But recently it's just stopped punching nicely, and it's just very disappointing, like I said. So I am just trimming it out here, and I know I can use like foil and things like that, and I may have done that, but again, I mean, if I have the punch and I've only used it like, I don't know, maybe 10 times, it shouldn't stop working already. I mean, it's just, that's silly. So now I'm going to ink around the edges of this, and I am going to glue these pieces together, and I glue about half. I end up gluing a little bit too much, and usually you'll see me kind of pulling it apart when I add it to the page, but it's okay. The glue stays wet just for a little bit, and I didn't really mind if it was kind of pulling apart because I was going to end up gluing it back together anyway. So just trimming again a little bit more white spots that are showing because the punch didn't punch nicely, like I mentioned. And then I'm going to bring my book over and figure out how this is going to fit on the page. And I am going to sandwich in some more of that coffee dyed, what's it called? Coffee dyed cheesecloth. So you can see I'm closing the book and just testing it because I don't want that tab to go outside of the book. So I want to make sure I tuck it in enough that it's not going to come out of the edge. And then I'm going to just rough cut some cheesecloth, and then it's going to go in between there on this side of the page. And again, that just kind of brings that texture from the left side of the page over to the right, which I really like. And I'm just going to use some Fabri-Tac or some Beacon 3-in-1 to get that glued down nicely. And then I'll add some of my art glitter glue also, just to make sure it's super sticking. Combination glue, one of them will work, and I just kind of hold it there to make sure it doesn't pop up. You can also use like a little clip to hold it down. That's another option, so you don't have to sit there and hold it with your fingers if you're worried about it coming out. Now I'm going to work on this card. Like I said, I'm going to stamp December Stress on here. You'll see that here in a second. It's from the Allie Edwards stamp set. I really like this circle. I love the circle stamps. I just like adding circles to the pages. It seems to soften the edges. I have a lot of straight edges on the page a lot of times, and circles just, I don't know, they make me happy. I really like using circles for some reason. So you'll see me adding that as like finishing touches a lot of times is the circles. So here I am just cleaning up my stamp. This time I'm going to, I think, back this with another piece of paper. Yeah, because it will cut out a little bit better, and it does cut out better. This is an EK Success Punch, and it punches much better this time. So I'm just inking it up, and I'm going to add it right there. And then I'm going to take a printable card, and that's what I'm going to end up using to put my journaling on. I didn't really have a spot to do any journaling on here. I'm looking here to see if I want to do anything else. I'm going to stamp one more thing. Sorry, I hit the mic. I'm going to hit one more stamp. I'm going to stamp it on this brown paper. I think it's something magic. Make magic, because I think her photos are cute, and even though she is stressed out, she still finds ways to do silly, funny things and to keep her spirits high, even though it can be a stressful time of the year. So I thought that was a perfect sentiment, and I'm just going to trim that out, leaving a little bit of a border because I do want to see the brown. I'm going to add that to the bottom of that photo there, just with a little bit of liquid glue, I think. Oh, no, with a dry adhesive. This is just a dot liner, small adhesive. That's nice when you have smaller pieces. And I think that turned out cute. So now I have this journaling card here. I'm going to ink around all the edges, and I am going to add a tab because that is going to fit in there, and the tab's going to go on the left-hand side. I'm just going to punch it out of a yellow piece of paper. I had a little scrap, so it was perfect. Oh, well, the scrap wasn't big enough, but I do pull out another piece of yellow. It's the same yellow. I wanted to add that. That's the same color that is on the backing of those photos of my daughter. So I'm going to add that on, and I do end up doing a little stitching. This part of the tab is going to go on the back side, because this is one of those tabs where it's just the one piece. You can actually fold over a piece of paper and just make sure you don't cut the very top, and it will do like the hinge. But for this one, I just didn't do it like that. I didn't want to, that cardstock is pretty thick from 49th and Main, so I didn't want to fold it over. So I just punched out two different shapes, one with that printable paper and then one with the 49th and Main paper, and it worked out. So just gluing this all down, and like I said, I'll take this over to my sewing machine and just do a little zigzag stitching on it. I think I add some stitching on the one of my daughter as well. Yeah, so zigzag and just some copper stitching, and then the journalings on the back there. You can see that I add some stitching in there as well. And when you do stitching, where it punches out of the back, if you have like a white core cardstock, it will show white. So I end up just taking my distress tool and just kind of going over that, and it kind of mutes that white that punches through. I'm going to add one more journaling spot here. This one I'm not going to trim into strips. I'm just going to trim into kind of a rectangle shape. I'm going to mount it on the yellow paper, and it's going to go there at the bottom of the coffee cup. So this is getting to the end of this video. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me. Hope you're enjoying the series. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. If you have any questions about anything I did or you just want to chit chat, you can leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you guys. And if you want to know in the next video I have coming up, you can click on that bell icon and it'll let you know when my next video is posted. And yeah, I'm just kind of finishing this up. I'm inking around. I wanted to trim out those corners so it wasn't so square. I think it gives a more finished look. And then I'm going to glue this down to the coffee cup using my beacon glue. And yeah, I like how this turned out. I hope you guys enjoyed this as well. Oh, I'm going to add Shelby, her name, to the little tag there. I'm going to use it in pencil first just to make sure I don't mess it up. And then I'm going to go back over it with the Sharpie permanent marker. And then I'll just erase the pencil lines afterwards. It's funny too, because if you use pencil, it seems like if I use pencil, I do it perfect. And I don't, and then outline, I'm like, why do I even use pencil? But as soon as I go to use like permanent marker to start with, it seems like I screw it up. So I always just default to using a pencil just in case I can erase. And then I always go over it with a permanent pen or permanent marker. But I just think that's funny because if I did that to begin with, it would just look funny. All right, guys, and here's some close-ups, and I have some photos at the end. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will be back hopefully again soon. Talk to you guys later. Bye, everybody.